guys. Okay, so I'm making another video today. It's taken me all day just to try to do this video because I'm dealing with my children. All right, so what I wanted to talk about today is self-confidence and self-esteem. Um, I personally think this is a really important element to spell work, and it's an important base to have. You know, if you can't have a really strong feeling of self-confidence and really strong self-esteem, how can you expect to have really powerful spell work? You know, because that's a powerful thing, having that self-confidence. And if you don't have it, how are you going to have it in your own personal magic? So I think this is an important subject. And, um, you know, I've sort of spent my whole life trying to build up my self-confidence and my self-esteem. So this is not a new subject for me. This is not a new area. It's something I'm very familiar with. So um, I grew up with a narcissistic mother who was very critical. She was not warm and fuzzy, definitely didn't have a lot of affection. I had an alcoholic father that was pretty absent from my life for the most part. You know, I didn't have a really strong base. So in my early adulthood, I was really focused on self-help and how to raise my own confidence level and improve my own personal self-esteem. So how do you do that? Well, for me, it did take a lot of therapy. And, some people are pro therapy, some people are not. I do think for a lot of people, they go in and they try it once, twice, maybe three times, and they just say, it's not for me, it doesn't work, it's just whatever. And I think a lot of times the reason why that happens is either people are just really uncomfortable talking about themselves, or they just don't find a therapist that they connect with. And that is huge. It's really important. And for me, it took a few, counselors before I found one that I really connected with. And when you do connect with someone, you'll feel it, you'll know. And I was lucky enough to find a woman that I did really connect with. She completely remothered me, reparented me, and really helped me to build up my self-confidence and my self-esteem. Now, this did not happen quickly. I worked with her on and off for a decade. These are not overnight fixes. But, you know, even though that relationship is really key and really important, it is you that will do a lot of the work. And a lot of that work you could also do on your own without the aid of a therapist. There are a billion self-help books out there. But here's just one little sort of tip. So, I've heard about how we all have these internal tapes, this internal dialogue, that's just always sort of playing in our head. And, we all have that internal voice that we listen to. And sometimes, it's even a conversation that's going on in your head where you're sort of talking to yourself. So I think the first key is to be really aware of what's being said. Sometimes we can have really negative self-tapes, where you're just constantly criticizing yourself, or you're too hard on yourself, or you're down on yourself. And it's really important to listen to what that dialogue is. And if it's negative, to really, have a heightened sense of awareness about it and really stop it in its tracks and banish it. Banish all that negative self-talk. So let's say, for instance, you're trying something new for the first time, like you're going to paint a picture and you've never painted a picture before. And you buy your paints and your brushes and your canvas, and you start painting, and immediately sort of the tape starts going, and you're like, oh wow, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I'm not talented, I am not a natural born artist. Whatever it is that starts going in your head, stop it in its tracks, turn it around, change the dialogue. And really go over the top with it. I mean, honestly, there's nobody to hear you. So go over the top. It's always good to give yourself more rather than less. So if you need to tell yourself you're the best artist that ever lived, then you tell yourself that. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Just make sure it's positive. Turn it around. If you have to overlove yourself for a while to get yourself to a good place, then you do that. There's no one to mock you, except for yourself, and you're not going to let yourself do that. So really try to be aware of what your internal dialogue is. What are those tapes that are playing over and over in your head, and what are they telling you? And if they're telling you something you don't want to hear, then you erase those tapes and create a new one. Tell yourself what you want to hear. At the end of the day, the most steady person you're ever going to have in your life is yourself. You might lose parents, partners, friends, but you will always have you. And you need to love yourself more than anyone else will ever love you. And what they say is true. If you can't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. So it is really important to build up a really, really strong self-love. So love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle to yourself. Be forgiving. Give yourself a break, and make sure that what you're telling yourself is a loving narrative. So I think this is really key. As we've talked about, words are powerful. Words are creative. So make sure what you're telling yourself is powerful and creative in a really positive way. And I think this is a really key, important, base that you need to have a good practice. So yeah, that was something I just wanted to share with you today, something I'm thinking about as I do. And I hope that you found it enjoyable. And we'll talk again soon. Take care, you guys.